Howdy, everybody. My name is J.R. Sparrow. Now, everybody knows that there's one or two or three things that excite me. That's movies, that's films, that's cinematography. As a young boy, I knew nothing about the Criterion Collection. When I turned the amazing age of 18, I went to go see this film, and this film was called The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. And going to see that film, I started to understand all the things that I learned in English. Those literary devices. I learned how to see, how to feel, and how to appreciate film. And in doing so, it inspired me not to become a director. I wish I could. I don't have the chops for that. Or I didn't have time to go to film school because I was worried about other things and women and things like that. But it gave me a deep appreciation for directors. Directors have to feel themselves as what we call in my world, just normal person world, we call them the human resource department for movies. We call them the end all be all to movies because a director or producer, anyone that has to hold a place to create imagery and then fine tune that imagery for a set of a million eyes, that's a lot of pressure. That's like coming to West Virginia and digging through all that coal to find that diamond that's been pressurized all that time. But the director has to pressurize everything to make a diamond. And today, I have Max Carey with me. And the nostalgic question that we're going to ask Max Carey is who is Max Carey, and he already knows that. So I've already asked the question, and I guess it's time for me to be quiet and let Max take the floor.
Thank you very much. Sounds like we're both Wes Anderson fans, by the way. I've always appreciated Wes Anderson. I mean, every film is a work of art. Uh, I'm a curious person. I spent my whole life just traveling from the time I got a camera when I was 13 years old. It was my excuse to sort of be in the room and be a voyeur and figure out what's going on. And I guess that just stuck with me. It's funny you're talking about the pressure of making a film. I've never really felt that. I've always just kind of been the curious guy, just happy to be in the room at all, hoping to document and create things. So I'm a curious person that just has used the camera as my passport to the world. That's who I am.
Okay. Now, we go into genres. You cover a genre that is heavily driven in focusing, and I use the word imagery, the imagery that has to come from the type of genre that you cover in being a documentary is a hard genre to me because to me that's there, it's just regular. It's like the human life. It's like something that you have to be really passionate about because anybody can go out here now with AI and do a film, could make some type of fiction work and just go away with that. But covering a documentary, there's so many modes and means that even I can't even comprehend. I can't understand. But I love documentaries. Documentaries tell a side of a story or an aspect or perspective that not everybody's going to think about. Um, Sometimes spark controversy, um, calls things people to realign their thoughts and to change their lives in certain areas. So you have a work, tOuch Kink, that you have made. And I would like you to take us on a journey real quick. And the first part of this journey I want you to do is what initially inspired you to create a documentary like this? And what was the particular moment or experience that sparked this idea?
As I said at the outset, I love to travel, and the thing that the most interesting thing for me is to discover new worlds. And a number of years ago, I met a dominatrix who just, I knew that that existed and there was such a thing, but I never really got to sort of sit with one before. And she just explained things to me so well and was so sort of really, really challenged a lot of the stereotypes I had around that. And her world was so much richer and so much more. nuanced than I expected. And you were alluding to this notion of there's a different film language you use for different stories. If a story is more black and white, you might literally use sort of black and white. This story seems so colorful, seems so nuanced. There seems so much sensuality to the whole story because it was this story of everyone being so different. So I used a very lush color palette, which isn't typical for a documentary, because the subject matter was that way. In fact, as I got deeper into the subject, I was thinking about everyone spoke a different language, so to speak. They talk about they'd use words to describe people that, and then a different set would use different. I decided that I was going to use color instead, and I kind of wanted to make it really simple. So, I believe when I'm showing a lot of red, I'm basically saying these are the things people are interested in. This is what fascinates them, or these are the things that they're passionate about. When you see a lot of red, and when you see a lot of green, this is their nature. This is who how they see themselves that given moment, dominant, submissive, this, that, the other thing. So when I'm using a lot of green, it was to do that. And when I'm using a lot of blue, it's about the sensation, what they're looking for. Is it pleasure? Is it pain? Is it this? Is it that? But it seemed to me that that was a truer language than getting into sort of all these labels people use to describe different things. Just to break it down to three simple things: what people are passionate about, how they see themselves in that moment of being passionate, and what they're looking for in terms of a sensation or a feeling or a goal. And that's it. Get rid of all this other language about, gay, straight, top, down, or bottom, this, that, the other. There's a million different ways people self-describe, but in the end, we're just people. We have those three things, and once we enter that, we're closer to knowing where we're going. So for me, it was a journey and a journey of self-discovery as well. I mean, I knew a little bit about it, but obviously going through the process and interviewing more people and seeing how their experiences turned out. I did something crazy that I'll probably never do again. I started with about 200 people and they just kept following up with them. And a lot of people, most people, in fact, nothing really happened over the course of the year. So there was 700 hours of material to get down to 75 minutes. But followed the story, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I didn't know who was going to be in it. I didn't know what was going to happen to these people. I really genuinely followed them for a year, and these are the stories of the four main people. One who was a British dominatrix that sort of had a lot of problems with the police and the government authorities in England. One was a middle-aged Texan guy who didn't really fit in very well to his local community because he's supposed to be the good old Texan boy, but he was a masochist that wanted to serve a dominatrix. And
Oh,
Yeah, and then as I got through deeper into the film, I felt that I needed a little bit of sober second look. I needed somebody who wasn't into this because it was turning into this is all wonderful, this is all perfect. Why doesn't everyone do this? So I found someone who really did think this was crazy, and people were probably a little damaged by the name of Emily. And exposed her to the world. She got to know more about the world. You don't have to see the film to see how that turned out. But there was two people that were very much into kink in the movie, and one person that was very much not into it. And you sort of see how it works out for all those three people.
okay, and I
That's
like
the
that.
that's the film.
All right, and I like the gist of that because the key thing that goes along with this, where this is such a strong topic, it's my favorite word. I love the word taboo in communities. For instance, I hail from a city called Lynchburg, Virginia, home to a pastor that's passed away a long time ago, but he was very prominent. His name's Jerry Falwell.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is it brings it like even you and I did it. We did the Larry Flint look. I looked up at heaven at the same time in a funny way, and I seen Larry Flint and I seen Jerry Falwell not happy about Larry Flint being there or wherever else he could be. But either way, a quick little tie-in. I'll throw that away now. Um, so here's the thing: dominatrix. Dominatrix is such a. It's not a black or white thing, like you said with the colors. You said the word obscure is the first thing that would be at the dining room table if I'm sitting there with my at the time uh girlfriend or whoever, whatever I'm doing. If I said the
Mhm.
word
Mhm.
dominatrix, I've got to figure out some things. So how did you get intertwined into this topic? Like what puts you into it?
Well, again, it was meeting this lady, January Seraph, who had actually seen one of my earlier films and was kind of a fan. And you know, I had the opportunity to meet someone who's a fan who happens to be incredibly gorgeous. I thought, well, maybe I'll have lunch with that person. And then I found out she was a dominatrix, and it seemed very interesting to me to learn more about that. It's a very guarded community. And I said, well, I would love to do a story about it, but I doubt very much I could get access to these people because they're not exactly known for, you know, being public people. It's very much a world that's misunderstood. And anything that's been done in the community has generally been kind of negative about them. So they're pretty gun shy. And she says, no, no, I'm going to introduce you to the right people. And it's a world where you have to be vouched for. So she vouched for me for a couple people, and like in this, you could, you know, in an interview, you can tell if someone's going to be a good listener, or if they're just looking for a gotcha moment. And I did a lot of interviews, and they could see that I was just a good listener. I genuinely wanted to find out about their lives. It wasn't like, so why are you so damaged that you do this, or why, you know what I mean. You know how it works as interviews. You can definitely tell by the tone of an interview whether somebody is going to listen and try and understand, or if they're really just looking for a gotcha moment. So two people did the interviews, and they gave me two more and two more, and I ended up with 200 people that were willing to tell the story because I had built that credibility in the community. And you know, that's how it progressed. So tOuch Kink is a long process of getting to know people. And as I got to know people, I also realized dominatrix means very different things to very different people. There's 1,000 different clients. I met a clown dominatrix. I met
Whoa,
dominatrix that are
now,
all about tying you up. Other ones that are all about just telling you how to live your life. Other ones about controlling your finances. You know, there's a whole bunch of different kinds of dominatrixes. But essentially, it's just someone who has typically a female. Well, in dominatrix would be, it'd be called a dom if it was dom, or a master if it was a male. That you give control to in various aspects of your life for various reasons.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Now, each character in tOuch Kink brings a distinct perspective on BDSM and personal empowerment. What do you hope viewers will learn, feel, and like take away, because those things become part of the takeaway from experiencing these individual journeys through this documentary?
Well, I think anybody can have a lot of preconceived ideas about a community if they don't have any information about it. So I wanted to give people a peek behind the curtain, and so you get to know these people and find out they don't actually have horns, and they don't actually like you know, do horrible things, uh, and that there's a process to it. I mean, what we're talking about is ethical kink BDSM, which requires a lot of conversations, requires a lot of clear consent, informed consent, requires, you know, playing with certain precautions, and it requires checking in with that person afterwards. The circle, having the circle, and the if you follow this process, this all makes a lot of sense. And in many ways, I see it now as preferred to non I mean, I feel sorry for vanilla people. I feel sorry for people that are not kink aware because it's much more dangerous not to be. You know, people are kind of following these rules that somehow they were told that they're supposed to do. Some people are following and some aren't, and they have certain they think they're supposed to do certain things or be a certain person based on some set of rules that they heard somewhere, as opposed to what it should be is, hello, my name is, let's do something. How about this? What do you think? Let's have a chat. Let's decide what we're going to do. And, you know, actually caring about people as opposed to just making a bunch of assumptions what it is to be this or what it is to be that. So this circle of, so first thing, I just want people to get a sense of the world. And the second thing I want them to see is the circle, the reason why it's safer than vanilla relationships, the reason why it's safer than the quote unquote normal world is this process of open and honest communication, really clear consent, playing, and then taking care of that person, the circle, you know. And once you understand that circle, you can also be truer to yourself. I mean, I don't even like hanging out with non-kinky people anymore because, you know, you can't really talk about anything. You have to be able to, you're always a little worried that person's going to be upset about something or this or that. Where kinky people, they may not be into the same stuff, but they're generally far more open-minded about you talking about what you might be into, or how you see yourself, or what you might be looking for. Now, you may not have a match, but you're not going to have them run in fear because they find out that you're X, Y, and Z. You know, Generally speaking, kinky people are far more open-minded and willing to hear about you and interested in you, and that seems like a really good place to start human relations. I wonder sometimes if we're not, if that we have to do that, because there is no one set of rules for men, one set of rules for women anymore. There's just humans, and we have to figure this stuff out, two people at a time kind of thing. And I think Kink offers the roadmap for that. So in the beginning, it was just to show people a little bit about that world and to educate them on that circle. But now I actually see it as more than that. I see it as something that the vanilla world can really learn from. And I think Kink, if you take the time to learn about it, it can really inform your life and help you have better relationships and with yourself and others, and hopefully, you'll be a little happier. And isn't that what we're all looking for? Is a little bit of happiness? Isn't that in the Constitution?
Yes, it is. Now, right here, this is what I want to know. In capturing this film and directing this, right? What were some of the challenges about capturing such an intimate and complex subject matter, and how did you overcome them after you broke your vanilla status? Because think, going into this, you may not have been vanilla, but you probably realized that, hey, I may have been a vanilla about a few things. Like, how did you break that mold and that barrier that you had prior? Because we all have barriers before we accept this
Mm.
portion of our life. And the barrier, in the sense, I'm not saying like, oh, you were against it, but I want to be honest. When I got to get out there, when I started doing some of my extracurricular activities inside of my sexual world, I didn't think of them as kinks. I didn't know certain things were kinky. Um, like, and we're all adults here. Like for me, for instance, me being African American, I like race play, which I know that's wild, but for some reason, I got that Thomas Jefferson feel.
Common. Yeah, of course.
I know, I
Yeah,
know,
no,
I
I
know. I
mean,
mean, I like that Thomas Jefferson feel to certain things, and I don't mind saying this on this show because, like I said,
mhm,
there's nothing
mhm,
unadulterated
mhm,
about anything, or
mhm.
certain other things, certain other sexual aspects. Like, how did you handle some of the sexual innuendo that came about when you were doing this?
It's funny. Let me start with this. The house that Kink built has two sides to it. The BDSM side is actually not a lot to do with sex, actually. The
Okay,
BDSM side of the house that Kink built is more about power play and relationships and maybe playing with pain and tying and
okay,
DSs, often nothing sexual at all.
okay,
It's a bit of a misnomer. A lot of people, oh, dominatrix is a sex thing. Not actually, in many, many cases, probably the majority, it's actually not. Uh, it's actually about the power play and all the rest of it. I guess it depends on how you want to define sex. But anyway, the other side of the house that Kink built is the fetishism. People dressed up in latex, going to crazy parties, doing crazy stuff. That's 80% about sex. It's like, let's wear latex and shag, or let's do this and that. So, um, wanted to get that out of the way first because
okay. That's a
I guess that
misconception.
that was probably a misconception. It was probably also one of the things that surprised me. I mean, I kind of thought, like many people, that uh, maybe this was a little bit more sexual for everybody, and finding out it's not really. For a lot of people, they really just want to be tied up. It's like a mental vacation. A lot of people have high stress jobs or this or that, so they want to be put down a notch or two to take the pressure off. A lot of people get a certain pleasure from having pain inflicted upon them. They literally get endorphin rush. I ended up bottoming once to a dominatrix because I ended up dating one for a bit of time, and she was so experienced. I decided to let her do that, or well, I wanted to. I just didn't trust anybody, well enough. And I found that after 4 hours of being whipped and spanked and all the rest of it, a real high, like a chemical high. I've never tried heroin, but I'm pretty sure this is what heroin would feel like. Just slowly ramping up pain over a long period of time. When she's done, you're just like,
Oh,
and it's not an orgasm, but it's a high. So for a lot of people, it's about that.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different things. So I guess, yeah, what surprised me the most is the sheer variety of sensations, the sheer variety of psychological play, I mean, they call it play because it is play. As kids, we learn how to do stuff by play. As adults, we learn stuff to do stuff by play. You were talking about race play. I think sometimes we want to do the stuff that feels well, Esther Perel actually said it really well in her book, Mating in Captivity, something along the lines of we might actually, you know, get off to the things that we're protesting against during the day, something along those lines. That we might, there's nothing politically correct about the erotic mind. You could be marching for equal rights by day, and by night you're playing the opposite game, and that's not unusual. In fact, it's probably healthy because we're that's what minds do is we try both sides of this. Why are they people? It's how we work through things, how we understand things. So I don't think it's unhealthy to sometimes have your private thoughts and have your private little fantasies. We're all two people. There's the person that takes off their shoes when they come to your house because they want to be a good guest. And there's dear friend that tells you, I don't know, maybe I don't have any shoes. I don't know. I mean, like the one might be making appearances and one will tell you the truth. Well, we all have those two sides. I think that's healthy. So I guess that's probably the biggest thing is to realize how big that spectrum was, to realize that a lot of it really wasn't about sex. A lot of it was, but in the end, it's just a beautiful way of self-expression and finding out who you are. And I guess the biggest discovery I made is that I would never want to go back. Now that I understand this world a little bit better, I find everybody else who's not kink informed pretty boring.
Right. And I like that aspect because if you are kink informed, I think that brighten your perspective, and you've even enlightened me that it's more than just the stereotype that I built around it because I wanted the BDSM. I think of the whips, the chains, and you know what? People take 50 Shades of Grey and spread it all across this thing. And that's not always the case, or not the case at all. So here's one thing I want to do real quick because we do this thing on the show, and this is something nostalgic from the original show, West Virginia and Commonplace. We do a shameless plug. Could you please tell everybody where they can meet and greet you across the internet and where they can watch this illustrious documentary?
Shameless plug. Touch kink. You drop those two words into your Google machine, you'll find me everywhere. Done like millions of articles and millions of tons of stuff. So just touchkink.com, and you'll sign up for my newsletter. You'll find screenings, or you'll find all sorts of fun stuff. But touch kink. That's it.
Okay.
Touch kink.
So will this be readily available in a physical form or any?
Probably, I mean, nobody really does that anymore. I was thinking about doing a limited edition DVD run, but right now it's a VOD. It's on Amazon. It's on. I prefer a platform called Kinema, just because they give the filmmaker a bigger plug, and
All
it'll
right.
be eventually on Apple as well. But Apple gives the filmmakers the least amount of money, so it's kind of the last one you put on.
Right. So I will say with this, everyone, and this is one thing, please go ahead and support this movie however you can. In the show notes, you will have links that will get you to Kinema. That way that you can support Max and help him in his next endeavor. Now, let me ask you this, because we're going into another aspect. We're going to the film aspect of this, because I want this to help out content creators and people that are aspiring to direct a film. What was it like after you talked to January? What was it like when you decided that it was time to put a lens to what she was talking about? What did that aspect feel like for you? Like after getting the first hour of footage done, what did that feel like for you?
It's funny, I maybe I should be more intimidated by the process, but I've always had a camera around my neck. So for me, it just felt as natural as a musician probably picking up a guitar. It's like I'm going to play another gig. This is what I do. This is who I am. I think it's the camera or making movies has always been like playing music is for a musician. I don't think there's a lot of pressure. I mean, if you love it, it's just what you do. It just seems all very natural. So it it was an enjoyable process every moment. I would love to be filming every day, talking to people every day if I could afford to. It's more the hard part's actually not filming. The hard part is promoting, and the hard part is like editing, and the hard part is dealing with agents and broadcasters and all the rest of it. That's the part I hate. I think it should be. If you want to be a photographer, you want to be a filmmaker, it really should be. And if it's not, maybe you should find a different aspect. It's like if you want to be a concert pianist, but you're afraid of pianos, probably not going to work out very well. You know, I don't know.
All right.
It's
All right. So I have one person's story that kind of entertained me, and I pronounced her name wrong. Mistress Eveline. Um, and with her, she deals with public exposure and the judgment of society. How did you approach filming her story, especially with the cultural and personal sensitivities involved? Oh no, I think I lost you.
I don't know what happened there.
All right, well, I'll fix the edit.
Everything just froze up.
That's cool. I can edit that stuff out. So here's the thing: next question I asked you, I told you. Oh, hold on. My favorite part of your film, and the one thing I want to say to people: when you bring someone on your show, make sure you source the material and you watch the material and do stuff. Too many times people come on people's shows and they don't take care of the material by actually watching the full thing. Mistress Eveline's story deals with public exposure and societal judgment. How do you approach filming her story, especially with cultural and personal sensitivities involved? Oh no, I lost you again. The internet is a culprit. All right, looks like we're back now.
Okay, I don't know what's going on with that, but hopefully it'll.
Okay, so I'll get to this question and we'll just do it from here. Mistress Eveline, correct? Eveline?
Eveline, yeah.
Eveline. Her story deals with public exposure and societal judgment. How did you approach filming her story, especially with the cultural and personal sensitivities involved? Because this was my favorite portion, and I lost you again. Internet's messing up his. Yeah, not from my internet. This runs directly off 5G. Hello?
I'm sorry. I was just checking to see if this is like my end or.
Yeah, I thought it was my end at first, but my internet stabilized because I didn't put it on the Wi-Fi. I'm actually running off of the 5G data from AT&T in Atlanta because I didn't want to mess
Yeah.
it up. I know like hotel Wi-Fi would have made this shitty. Um, you're going again.
I'm going to my phone to give it a see if it has a better connection. Can you still see me? I gotta turn this button
I can
on.
hear you. Okay, yeah,
Okay, there
that's
we
cool.
go.
That's cool. So, all right,
Maybe I
we'll get to
like.
this next. We'll get to this question real quick. Oh, it looks like I lost you again. All right, I got power to that. I'm not losing anything. That's what I'm about to edit. Do you know what I was talking about? Kink. BDSM. Told you I'm about to become a. I said that. Right, but now I've decided that this year, since I lost the tooth, I can become a freaky. I'm gonna become a fan. Can you get me a different shirt? I don't care. Mm,
Darker gray or something, or just something different?
just something different.
You're gonna have to give me an idea.
Something kind of plain.
Oreo, this orangish color. The rest of them want characters.
Okay. I'm about to cut his show in just a second.
What do you want?
What did you say I got again?
A darker gray. You have this color, and then you have all your character shapes.
Take.
And long sleeve.
Is that a short sleeve shirt? It looks long sleeve. That'll work. That'll work because I'm interviewing a white lady, so.
Oh, they're different. You want me to get him back on sometime and finish up, or?
No, I'm gonna just take it from here. I don't have time to.
I mean, if it was going good, I would give it the opportunity to let it come full circle, just to kind of finish it and make the ending make sense. You want me to warm your dinner up? You got 20 minutes, or you don't have time?
I don't have time yet.
Sure.
That's what I was probably gonna do, so I could edit this shit. If you don't care if I take the work with me, or do you want to spend time with me?
I mean, you know, that's a thing, but I know that this is important. So I will give you time to edit your shows because it won't take you very long, right?
Right. All it is I gotta just slap the people's.
So you can edit while we're eating, and then when you're done eating, you can get the 2 cases of sequels.
Okay. All right, I gotta cut his interview.